Jefferson Square of Weirdness. Welcome to Scary Stories. People seem to respond positively to our recent episode about the strange and unique Dogman sightings by Mark Shackleman from 1936. The story was a Shackleman family secret until Mark's son Joe revealed it all to Linda Godfrey 6 decades later, in the 1990s. In that episode, we examined the newspaper obituary of the son Joe Shackleman, who it turned out was a locally famous journalist, known for publishing investigative pieces about crime bosses. He had a reputation for honesty and had won awards for his investigative journalism, and he had no qualms at all about excitedly contacting his fellow journalist, the late Linda Godfrey, when he saw her on television along with a drawing of the Beast of Bray Road. He then spilled the beans about his father's 1936 sighting of a werewolf-type dogman who scratched at the earth on the top of an ancient burial mound and uttered the word Gadara at the father, Mark Shackleman, who was working as a night watchman at the time on the grounds of the St. Coletta School for Exceptional Children in Jefferson County, Wisconsin. The case may be the first famous 20th century dogman sighting on the one hand, but it's also got a lot of spookiness all around it. Could it have been a sighting of a previously unrecognized hominid or upright walking canine? Well, I can't say it would be impossible, but the entire story seems somehow stranger than that. The beast appears on a sacred native burial ground. Both the Shacklemans were devoutly religious. The creature says a word that is also the name of a location of one of the strangest stories in the Bible. A story in which Jesus was said to have exorcised multiple demons out of a man or men who had been living in the crypts among the dead. It doesn't just feel like a sighting of an out-of-place animal to me. Of course, I used to be a member of the New York Fortean Society, and I got to be friends with people like John Keel, the journalist, writer, comedian, and stage magician, who coined the term window area in the first place. He used the term to refer to places where not one, but many strange things happen. Like Skinwalker Ranch, for instance, if you follow any of that. They do tell a few stories that sound to me like dogman or werewolf stories from that ranch. But there's also video of UFOs, stories about disembodied voices, dangerous glowing orbs of light that can kill, and all sorts of other inexplicable stuff. Keel had noticed that if you go to an area where something strange was reported, you often find any number of other strange cases from that same place. He had gone to Point Pleasant, West Virginia to investigate UFO sightings, or UFO as he used to say. He came away with the Mothman prophecies, which is certainly not what he had gone there to write. My other friend from the old Fortean Society days, Tim Beckley, used to tell me how he would ask open-ended questions to let the witness steer the conversation. Like one time he heard there was a big UFO sighting in an area near where he was, so he drove to the neighborhood, then started ringing doorbells. He would explain he was a writer from New York who wrote about strange phenomena, then ask if they had seen anything out of the ordinary recently. He never mentioned UFOs, so that he wouldn't be leading them on. One person took him around to the side of his house, pointed at a leaking air conditioner up on the second-floor window, and told Tim that a Bigfoot would come by sometimes in the warmer evenings and drink the water leaking from the air conditioner. If Tim had asked the guy to tell him about UFOs, he never would have gotten that crazy, but apparently very true Bigfoot story. So I shouldn't have been surprised when the chapter after the one about the Gadara werewolf from 1936 in Linda Godfrey's book Real Wolfmen, which you can buy at the link in the description, it helps this channel out if you do that, started off with a quote from John Keel himself explaining what happens near window areas. From time to time, the playful inhabitants of that other world climb through the curtains in the areas we call windows, and they stalk us to drink our blood and create all kinds of mischievous beliefs and misconceptions in our feeble little terrestrial minds. That's John Keel from the Complete Guide to Mysterious Beings. So although we might know Jefferson County most for the Shackleman family dogman story, that doesn't mean the weirdness stops there. I mean, this place has been marked off as special since ancient times. This is where Aztalan State Park is, which used to be a Native American fortress with its own flat-topped multi-layered mound that still stands to this day. Aztalan isn't far from Rock Lake, which is famous, or infamous, for a number of reasons. It's rumored to have small stone pyramids or teepees at the lake bottom, but the water is so dark and murky that nobody so far has proven or disproven that legend. Rock Lake has also been said to have a monster living in it, like a local Wisconsin Nessie. I remember talking with Keel about Loch Ness. He kind of felt as though the loch had an underwater window in it, like a portal or opening between realities or maybe time frames. This would explain why the creature would seem very real and very solid to people sometimes, but then go missing when being searched for later on. Linda Godfrey makes a strong argument for the square-looking Jefferson County to actually be not so much the home of a species of werewolves, but possibly more of a window area in which dogmen and all sorts of other cryptids waltz into and out of whenever they feel like it. Or maybe it's unintentional on their part. Maybe it's more of a David Paulides missing 411 thing, with the creatures walking into our reality without knowing they're doing it. Well, I suppose it could be a bit of both, couldn't it? So let's go down the list of weirdnesses that Linda Godfrey gathered for Jefferson County, and then by the end you can tell me if you think this is a window area or portal area, or not. Let's start off with Paradise Road. Now, Paradise Road doesn't sound so heavenly to me. It's known as a haunted road according to Linda Godfrey, and she received one report from Paradise Road of a creature that the witness described as demonic. It stood on the ground off the road, and it was man-sized, but it was a bird, and had large red glowing eyes. Does that not sound like a description of the West Virginia Mothman? It does to me. I know I would have kept driving, that's for sure. I believe I should note here that Paradise Road is 10 minutes away or 13 minutes away from St. Coletta's, depending on whether you go north of the Big Swamp or south of the Big Swamp. Either way, that area is dominated by a big spooky swamp, and it seems to me that there's always a swamp or two in any window area, isn't there? Now, another big spot over there is State Highway Wisconsin 106. Route 106 is haunted too, but the creatures that haunt this place seem more like Bigfoot or possibly Googway dogmen to me, from the way they're described in Godfrey's book. Let's list off a few Route 106 encounters and sightings over the years. 1972. A woman saw a large hairy biped on her farm. Soon afterward, her horse was attacked by some kind of a predator. Godfrey says that the story was backed up by an agent of the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources who vouched for the credibility of the witness. Skipping forward to 1980. A fisherman named Ronald Nixon was fishing in the Bark River south of Route 106 when he said he got stared down by some kind of a hairy two-legged animal on the other shore. 1992. Tom Brichta and Chris Maxwell see a hairy biped on Route 106, again just outside of Fort Atkinson. When you look at the map over there, it's all farmland and some houses. When they talk about seeing the creature walk out over into a tree line, I see only one patch of trees, and that is just immediately east of the town. If the creature were crossing there, though, it would be walking in the direction of some big swampy areas. In fact, it would have been heading down toward the Adam Birding Conservatory, the Prince's Point Wildlife Area, and of course the Bark River, where witness Ronald Nixon said he got stared down by a big hairy biped in 1980. 1993, a fellow named Andrew Hurd encountered what he called a Bigfoot inside his family's barn near Hebron, Wisconsin. I'd be like, "Sorry to disturb you in your barn, Mr. Bigfoot, sir," and then I'd get out of there. 2005. A guy named Eric Binney and a friend saw a weirdly large four-legged canine with glowing yellow eyes, this time just south of Jefferson on County Road N. 5 years after that, July 15th, 2010, a middle-aged woman who chose to remain anonymous said she saw a Bigfoot crossing Route 106 in broad daylight at 4 p.m. Again, it was walking down toward the Bark River area. And Linda Godfrey notes that this is just where there used to be mounds which were done away with in earlier times to create more farmland. Maybe those mounds, or whatever they were actually there to mark, are still there, at least for those with eyes to see. Speaking of which, have you ever seen that channel on YouTube called The Archivist with Analog? I don't know if his theories hold water or not because it's not my area of expertise, but he thinks that the mounds actually marked entrances to some kind of transportation system, possibly a tunnel system. But I'm thinking, what if they marked entrances to window areas or portals? We know burials were made in the mounds, but was that their original purpose? Maybe, I don't know. Maybe you know more than I do. And if so, please share what you know in the comments. There's another aspect to locations like this in which so many different bizarre phenomena seem to exist next to each other. There's no way that many large predators could survive together in such a small area. And how would the population breed? Where would they live if they did? Certainly not in the farmlands of the Midwest. Even inside those swamps, there isn't enough room for so many beastmen. Unless those swamps or the areas around them are actually more like doorways, letting things in and out that don't really belong here with the rest of us. There was a reason John Keel was respected, even by geniuses like Jacques Vallée, who he is shown here with. The one time I got to meet Vallée, he and I spoke of John Keel. Vallée worked for the CIA along with Ingo Swann back in the day doing a remote viewing at the Stanford Research Institute. He was then, after that, one of the people who created the internet. Vallée said at that event I attended with Tim Beckley some years back that the conscious universe seems to function like an internet search engine. You put in some kind of an address, or a description of that address, and the search engine finds whatever it can that seems to match what you're asking for. Sometimes that address is in the past, or the present, or the future, because as it turns out, all of it is happening at the same time. Wait, did that just make sense or was that gibberish? I'm not sure why, but I think there's some kind of an answer to all of this in that gibberish I was just uttering. Then again, maybe it was just gobbledygook after all. But what isn't gobbledygook is our special executive producer tonight. Here to tell you all about her is Mr. Bigfoot himself. Biggie. She is strong and never falters. Tonight's EP is Ginny Walters. Please join me in thanking the kind and generous executive producer of tonight's episode, Ginny Walters, for donating to us using the thanks button on YouTube. Thank you, Ginny. And here to explain how you too can become one of our executive producers is our international TV spokesmongrel, Henry Lee Dogman. Hank?
Thanks, Biggie. And thanks to all of you for watching this far. If you liked it, please click like. If you'd like to see more of our work, please subscribe. And also click that bell icon if you'd like to be notified when we put out a new episode. To become an executive producer, you can donate to us through the thanks button under each of our videos or through our paypal.me/PeterBernard209 page. To receive cool perks like secret uncensored Dogman episodes far too wild to ever run on this channel, you can become a YouTube channel member by clicking the join button, or join our PayPal subscribers club at peterbernard.com. Joining either at the $3 a month level or above gets you access to our over 25 hours of secret uncensored Dogman stories available nowhere else. Do you have a scary story about Dogman or some other kind of high strangeness that happened to you? Let us know by emailing us at scarystoriesnyc@gmail.com or by leaving us a voicemail message at 804-LA-SCARY. You may need to call back on that one. It cuts off after I think 3 minutes. And if you don't want to do any of that stuff, thank you for simply watching to the end. Good night, and have a scary tomorrow.
Come back for more scary stories.